Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I'm sure many of us have heard this quote before, but have we ever really broken down what that means? This week, me and my special guest discuss the importance of surrounding yourself with successful people and how it can radically transform how you chase your goals and guide you to achieve them quicker. Jumping right into the episode, today I have my good friend Chi on the podcast. Me and him go way back. This week's episode is going to be more in the format of a conversation rather than an informative lecture. So the episode might run a little longer than usual, but feel free to introduce yourself, Chi.
What's going on?
What's going on, dude?
Nothing much. Just here to talk about the topic, man.
Alrighty. Well, jumping into that, when it comes to surrounding yourself with successful people, I think we should probably start with defining the term, what is a successful person?
Yeah, I agree, because it's such a vague definition, you look it up and it's accomplishing an aim, a purpose, or having achieved popularity, profit, or distinction.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't put a box around and say, they make this much money, they must be successful. It's so vague and nebulous.
It's also a rather subjective term because success can be viewed in, so many different perspectives that it's really, like you said, it's hard to pinpoint down what actually makes someone successful,
right.
In practicality.
I mean, for just for sake of purposes, I would say it's somebody that's setting out goals and accomplishing them. It can be big or small, but somebody that's just accomplishing something that they've set out to do.
Okay, since we got the definition defined, I think we need to define what realm you surround yourself with, whether that be friends or acquaintances in a recreational setting or in a professional setting.
No, I agree. I mean, because both friends and acquaintances can be they can serve their purposes in these different realms.
For sure.
Yeah, like professionally, in my mind, and I work professionally, is you can have an acquaintance as a professional, and you guys do a little bit of business and blah blah blah, and it's really shallow, and it's it's not malicious or anything, but it's not as deep
as a friendship. No, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and then friends as a professional, you can actually be a lot more frank, and you can talk about business and stuff like that, and it's a lot more comfortable, and you know where each other are coming from.
No, yeah, and I was gonna bring up the fact, I talked about it a little bit before, but my experience on the track team, and how that played out. This is just more in a recreational sense, not it's not very professional. It was a sports team in high school, but basically what I was saying is, when I was on the track team, I was a javelin thrower. And when our coach would go out of town, we would have to do sprinter workouts because throwing javelin actually, how fast you can run has a lot to do with, how far you could throw the javelin. So I went over to the sprinter group, and I was talking to the coach, and I was like, hey, my coach is out of town. I got to do the sprinter workout. He's like, okay, cool. And he gave me the sprinter workout, which at the beginning of practice, all the sprinters get the same sprinter workout. And I was like, okay, it was rather straightforward, do some 100s, do some 400s, like basic sprinter speed training. And I was sitting on the track putting my spikes on, and one of my friends walks up. He was like top 2, top 3 sprinter at the school. Like, this guy was really good. And he told me, and he's like, dude, like, lose the workout. And I was like, this is the same workout you're doing. The coach gave everybody this workout. This is what we got to do. And he was telling me, he's like, I want you to look around at what everybody else is doing. You also realize everybody else is, consistently getting 8th place, 11th place. 12th place. They're not even, scoring in the top 50 for our district. And he's like, if you're serious about, your sport and you really want to take yourself to the next level, you can't just be doing, what everybody else is doing. And, I as he told me that, it made a lot of sense. If you want to really get results, in that field, you can't just settle for, what everybody else is doing in that field. So, I sat down with him, one of the best sprinters at the school, and two, like the fourth and the fifth best, and I did their routine, and oh my gosh, was it hard. But their routine compared to the normal one, you're looking at doing double, almost triple what everybody else was doing, but it made sense of why they were so much better than everybody else. Because to them, it wasn't about just doing the routine and going home. To them, it was about going above and beyond. And it's almost like they weren't even acknowledging the routine, because that was like the bar. That was baseline. They didn't even care about baseline. They took baseline and they said, let's notch that up to the third, the fourth, the fifth level. Because you're never going to be the best at doing the base level. And just by me being with them for 1 week and practicing that workout, all the other sprinters are looking at me and they're like, dude, like, why are you doing that insane workout? And, I kind of told them the same thing, and it started to click for everybody that, just me surrounding myself by the best of the best in that category dramatically increased how good I was in that. Not only because, the athletic intensity it requires to do that, but the perspective it puts to where, you're not doing what everybody else is doing. That's not even, you don't even think about doing that. You start off at such a higher level with other people who are on that higher level, and it's just normal to everybody to go that hard. And that just gave me like a certain level of insight.
No, I agree. I have a similar story. I have two friends. One friend, let's call him, B, and the other friend, we'll call him, M.
B and M.
Just for the sake of,
yeah, dude.
Covering, what is the disclaimer? To protect the innocence of
protecting the individuals. I got you.
But person B is very successful. He's like a VP in one of his departments, or something, in the department of this huge company.
Okay.
International company. Does very well for himself. I mean, by all means, he'd be called successful. And person M is also successful, but he's a little bit more, more in the trenches. He's in progress. He's still successful by any means. But there's a dichotomy there. But also there's an outlook difference too. And surrounding yourself with these type of people, you start to talk to them and start to share stories and exactly how they accomplish goals.
Hey, you share mindsets.
Even and outlooks and goal making and all this stuff. I mean, it really does open your eyes to raise to a higher level, because it's you bounce back ideas and stuff. You're kind of brainstorming together, and you're like, yo, like this is what I'm going through right now. How did you handle something similar to this? People willing to share will give you some great insight on how to accomplish monumentous things. It's a great feeling. It's true.
I mean, that's an excellent point, actually. I was going to say that a little later down the road, but the principle of, if you want to achieve, let's just say X, surround yourself, or you don't even, I say surround yourself, but I'm not talking about, like go over to their house or call them on the phone, just absorbing, content that they may have put out to help other people, to also get to that level by, kind of studying and breaking down what they did to get to that point is going to, it's going to give you a lot of reference about what you need to do to break that down and get to that point. And that also kind of goes with, surrounding yourself with successful people, not only, the people themselves, but the information they put out. I feel like that's
Right.
also really important.
Yeah, yeah, and in my story, B and M, they both recommended a lot of books. There was a lot of book reading. It was, it was like, hey, have you read this, or have you heard about this guy, or this person, and you start to kind of read what they read, and you talk to them about it. And next thing you know, you're having conversations that you never would have thought you would have normally with just normal, friends that weren't on that same level, I guess you would say. And just to circle the wagons, basically the concept that I wanted to touch up on was having an acquaintance versus a friend. These two are very different concepts. Acquaintance is somebody that, you have a friendly relationship with, but, you're not really sharing anything of deep meaning, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, for sure.
And it's not reciprocal. That's one of the hallmarks of being a friend. A friend is someone that you're being reciprocal with, and they champion your successes, and they're the shoulder to cry on whenever you're failing. So it's a very, very different dichotomy in relationships. But I think that it's a lot more beneficial in either one of these realms to have the more leaning more towards the friendship role.
Okay.
Of successful people. You want to have successful friends, not successful acquaintances. Because you have a successful acquaintance in your personal life. If you have a successful acquaintance in your personal life, it's not really going to be a whole lot, right? Like, you guys are going to kind of like have a conversation every now and then it's going to be like,
they're just kind of there.
Yeah, it's just going to be like, hey, man, like, how's the weather? And then that's it. Like, it's like it has no depth to it. And it's the same with the professional world. There's no difference between these two worlds, really, except for in the professional world, you're doing business with each other. So, like, my story about B and M.
Going back to that.
Going back to that, right? Going back to that, great guys, right? But there's a clear difference between the acquaintance guy and the friendship guy. B is more towards the acquaintance realm. It's you sit there, highly successful dude. It's just. It's just there's no conversation there. It's just like, hey man, like, what's going on? How's the wife and kids? And that's it. Like, it's just really shallow. But M is, hey man, what are you doing? Like, how's your life? Like, what's the next step you're taking professionally? There's a lot more caring there, and there's it's not like B doesn't know what to say if you were to ask him the question.
For sure.
It's just so. It's not coming out of a place of generosity. He's not going to like offer this up. The friend would. So M does, and I would talk to him. Oh, this is the next evolution that I want to do in my professional life, and and man, the long talks with that, and you start discovering stuff, about what exactly you want, right? And they'll ask you the tough questions. Friends will, because like when this new evolution of my professional life that I'm coming up to, it's M was quick to say, well, what do you want, and is this satisfying what you want? It's a simple concept, but it's like mind blowing when you're not thinking about it.
No, for sure.
So,
I think you hit it on the head when you compared, like depth and shallowness. It's something we're all familiar with. You can meet someone, you're like, okay, wow, that was a very shallow interaction. And you can, talk to an old friend and things get deep. That's why we have those two words. And, like I was saying, I think it's also important to bring up, when you have these friends, you kind of got me thinking, especially in a more professional career, the importance of keeping up with these friends and keeping them in your lives, because, I was kind of listening to what you were saying and I was like, like, he has a good point, because to someone like me, like a college student, everybody I would surround myself with is in my immediate vicinity. I get in my car and like friends, well, maybe not family, but friends, teachers, most mentors that you meet, church faculty, managers, what name you, most of them are relatively really close. So, you wouldn't think about having to keep up with them. So in your instance, and, a more professional setting where, people are moving, people are going on business trips, what are some things, you would say you could do to keep up with those people so, you can have that relationship formed, especially when, you need to talk to them?
So it's one of those things that it's a little difficult to do in either one of these relationship roles, I'll call them, the acquaintance versus the friendship.
Okay.
The acquaintance thing, you might do a round of golf or something, something like really low key, and you just kind of like, in the professional world.
But it's just something.
Like golf or something. But if they're actually your friend in the professional world, they're going to let you know what they like to do. I mean, I've been to a shooting range with clients, that's what they like to do. And you kind of, you're like, hey, you like shooting? I like shooting. Okay, great. Whatever. It's not golf, right? It's like golf is so lukewarm in the business world, it's just like, at least that's how I feel. I mean, some people really seriously like golf, and that's fine. If they really like it and they're willing to be, open about it, and they're like my friend, and it's like, okay, we're going golfing. That's cool, but it's usually like a very lukewarm thing to kind of put across the table. And then in your friendship world, I mean, you have friends, I have friends, right? Like it's open to everything. It can be anything from
it can be anything. Period.
Yeah, it can be anything. Period. I mean, that's your in the friendship world, you have an acquaintance and you're trying to build it, and you guys are keeping in touch or whatever. It can be anything. It can be going to a brewery. It can be going to a festival or something, going to a dinner party. If they're your friend, like I said, they're going to let you know. There's really not a whole lot of difference in the professional world, personal world, in some aspects with the friendship stuff.
I think what we're trying to get at here is we both agree that keeping these relationships is of importance for, especially if you're, by surrounding yourself with these people, you're aiming for a specific goal. Making sure they stay in your life is,
right.
It's a big thing to hit.
Especially if it's really beneficial, right? Because if it's beneficial,
like your career,
once again, and it's a friendship. Because I tend to agree that you want to make those acquaintances into friendships. You want to boost those up. If they're reciprocal. So it's just like if it's a healthy, nice, relationship that's just an acquaintance, and you want to boost it up to the next level, friendship's the way to do it, and you guys start hanging out and all that stuff. But keeping that is also hard too. I mean, getting them is not easy, and then keeping them is not easy, right? Those are two separate concepts. So it's just like, you want to keep those people that are beneficial to you around, because you never know when you're going to have to rely on them. I mean, we rely on our friends so much, and they rely on us. So it's just like, especially if you want to bounce ideas off of, in either one of these realms, you just rely on people so much to get that done.
But I think it's also important to discuss when you're surrounding yourself with successful people. Wouldn't you say that it's also, it's very important that they would be in your industry?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's, because so you have all these acquaintances, right? Let's paint the picture. You have all these acquaintances. You have all these friends. What do you do with this? Like, it's great to have a diversity of friends from all different professions.
Yeah, but it's just one big network. You're not really like.
Yeah, you're networking. You have a large network, right? But you want a piece of that network to help you out professionally, right? Because that's one of the main reasons why you want to grow, right? Is you want to professionally grow, and then you can also have friends that are accomplishing the goals personally that you want to accomplish, right? Like if they're getting married and having kids and stuff like that, So you want somebody to kind of understand your plight, for a better lack of a term, and so that way, So like if I was a painter, right? I want to have friends that also paint.
Successful friends who paint.
In the professional world, because that's my stance. I think the friendship in the professional world is way more beneficial than the acquaintance, right? So that's why I'm moving forward with that concept. And it's just like I want to have friends in the professional world that also paint because they understand what I'm doing every day because they do it every day, and you guys can talk a lot more easily, and it's not that. You're going to sit there and you're going to have this friend that's like, oh, that's cool, man. Like, it sucks for you that you're going through that. It's like they have no input whatsoever.
Conversation over.
Like, oh my God.
You're like, thanks, man. I appreciate the insight.
Right. It's like that is not exactly what what I'm looking for here. I'm explaining a complex problem, and I wish you'd have something to say about it. So it's a lot more easier to have those conversations with people that get where you're coming from.
For sure. And I also think, not only people in those categories, but, like we've been talking about this whole time, successful people in those categories. Because when you're surrounding yourself, we can use the painter example. When you're surrounding yourself with, let's say, successful painters, you're not only talking to them and, kind of analyzing how they think, you're also becoming more like-minded because, I think we all know the quote.
That's a good point. That's a really good point. And that's pretty much the heart of the matter. Is like, you're all rising together, right? Like, they're going up, and you're on the escalator up too, and you're rising together, and you're accomplishing things together, and having that like-mindedness makes the interaction and the communication a lot easier.
Especially, we can lead into the bullet point of, depending on what level they're on, matching their success. Let's say, these successful painters, just because the painter example seems to be the thing right now. If you're surrounding yourself with these successful painters, eventually, they're going to be moving forward as well. But it kind of propels you at, an accelerated rate because you're being around them so much. And like I said, you're kind of like analyzing them and breaking them down. You're doing what they're doing to be successful. And, it really is putting you on their level. And what better way to do that than, by, like I said, spending time with them, making sure that relationship stays solid. And that will not only propel you, but it'll also probably help them, too, in the long run.
Right, and then touching up on your point of, like, being in the same atmosphere, or the same what I want to call it, the same...
we can go with atmosphere. Atmosphere sounds great.
Basically, the concept I want to touch up on that is you don't want to be friends with the person that's too high up on the mountain that's not understanding your plight. And you want somebody a little bit more around your level, around your immediate goals, right? So
in your skill bracket.
my skill proficiency and stuff like that. My job title even, stuff like that. So like to go back on the example of P.S B is a very high up there VP in a company, right? So talking to him about some of my problems professionally, he's so far removed from it, he's just like, oh, I don't understand the normal day-to-day plights of man, he's just like, I don't understand.
He's got other problems to worry about.
He's got brand new problems, right? Like,
because it's not that he doesn't have those problems, it's that like he's so far beyond checked out past those problems and like grown from those problems that they aren't even problems anymore.
They're not even problems anymore, and and one of it is proficiency, right? Like he's been so proficient at getting those problems done that he doesn't even know how to relate to them anymore. So it's just like there's that, right? But M is more on my level, right? And he's like, he's easy to talk to because I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And it's a way more different conversation. So the guy on the mountain can serve his purpose, is what I'm saying. You don't have to write them off as a friend, but or even an acquaintance, but they serve their purpose. Maybe one day you might be closer to B, but right now you're closer to M. So keep those two around. You never know.
Yeah, and what you said, just relating it to keeping them, like I said, in your skill bracket. That lesson right there translates into so many different aspects. Just for one example, I work at a gym, and I see I see this all the time, Chi. I'll watch kids who are starting off in the gym. They're making the mistake of, they're surrounding themselves with successful people, whether that be trainers, fitness people on Instagram, YouTube, you name it. But what they're doing is, they're absorbing this content and watching it. And I'm not saying, that's a bad thing. I did the same thing. But they need someone who's, still at the top of their skill bracket, but hasn't advanced to the next bracket completely, because that person can relate so much better. And like I said, with weightlifting, these kids are watching these videos, and I'm watching them trying to do all this stuff that's like, this is advanced, like top tier, like weightlifting stuff. And I'm like, stop. Like, not literally, but I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, slow it down. We got to move down a couple skill brackets, and we got to advance through these before we can start with these. And that's, if you have, people, like I said, at the top of your skill bracket, that's going to propel you through your skill bracket so quick, so you can finally, get to those higher levels where, that like top tier stuff with those, professional trainers, it finally makes sense, and it finally processes, why you're doing what you're doing. And it's not just like a bunch of jibber jabber. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And the thing, as corny as it sounds, is that you're not learning the lessons that you need to learn along the way.
Oh, no, that's huge.
If you're hopscotching all over the place, and you're progressing, but you're progressing at rates that are so monumentous that you're just skipping.
You're not learning. You're just progressing. There is a big difference.
It's great, but there's a lot of stuff there that you're missing out, and it's stuff that can help you, be a better weightlifter, or be a better, painter, or whatever. So it's like, it's those little lessons, man, that make the complete picture of who you are, and that's, you don't want to skip out on those.
Alrighty, so wrapping this all up, we kind of defined, the term of what a successful person is, defining, the realm you surround yourself with, those people, kind of the differentiation between an acquaintance and a friend, having those friends in your field, keeping in touch with them, and the importance of doing that, because you're trying to match their success as you move forward one day. And we kind of hit everything, but I'll leave you on this. There's a right way to surround yourself with successful people, and there's a wrong way. The right way is, you want a friend. You don't always want these far off individuals who are, very successful, but they can't always relate to your individual problems moving forward. You're not going to become, you're not going to become Tiger Woods if you train with Tiger Woods for 5 years. But if you start off in, little league, master that, move to high school golf, master that, move to college golf, master that, play with some tournament victors, master that. This conquest of surrounding yourself with successful people at your level moving forward will, it'll allow you to really learn everything you need to, fully be able to master that skill moving forward.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's kind of the whole premise of what I was getting at, with the importance, the underlying message of the importance with surrounding yourself not only with successful people, but successful people at your level. And I'll tell you what, Chi, I appreciate you being on the podcast. It was a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully, somebody gets something out of this.
And you never know, Chi might be around leading into future episodes. But for this week's episode, that kind of wraps up the this week's discussion, and I will see all of you on next week's episode.